Hello and welcome back to Geek Legion of Doom. I'm Lisa from the Lisa Loves channel and I'm here today to do a review for you for an Irish horror film by the name of Gateway. Now this one is due for release on the 4th of April on Shudder, so get it added to your list. Let's talk about Gateway. So this is, as I said, an Irish horror movie. I would be more swayed to say it's an Irish thriller with horror elements. Leo kindly allowed me to review this one as he knows I like a good Irish movie. Being Irish myself, you probably noticed. This one's actually written and directed and produced by the same guy. This is Niall Owens, and amongst other people, our main star here is Tim Creed, who plays a character called Mike, who is the main central character in this movie. So let's get on to a little rough outline of the plot before we talk about what did and didn't work perhaps for me. So Mike is a little bit of a shitty character. We follow him and a few, I'm not going to say friends, I'll say associates. Oddly, a movie from Ireland with a criminal element isn't actually about paramilitaries for a change, which is a refreshing change. This is just your typical petty criminals, dealing some drugs, doing some dodgy deals. But Mike has got himself in a little bit of debt for a job that went wrong, and he owes quite a bit of money to the wrong person. So, needing desperately to raise this money in a certain time frame, Mike gets a tip-off about an abandoned house. That's perfect for setting up his marijuana growing operation that he wants to put into place. And him and his associates head to this house, and this is where the main crux of the story starts. I don't want to say too much, but this house is not your average house. There is something in the house that is a little bit, you could say possibly otherworldly. There's different interpretations to be taken from this movie. I just actually want to read you a quote that we get at the start of the movie. I love a quote in a movie. And it gives you a kind of an idea as to what to expect from the film. So the quote is from a Spanish philosopher, and pardon the butchering of this name, by the name Baltasar Gracian, and it says, "Never open the door to a lesser evil, for another and greater one invariably sink in after it." So there is, as the movie's title suggests, a gateway in this house that has a very strange effect on these individual men. I don't want to say any more than that. Each character has their own individual story associated with this. It's not an anthology by any stretch of the imagination. I just mean within the story, each individual character has their own experience with this gateway, I suppose. So that's all I want to say about the plot of the movie. Discover the rest for yourself. So let's talk about, for me, what did work and what perhaps didn't. So let's start with the positives then. The two main positives for me, well three, we'll go with three main positives for me, are mostly technical. The cinematography, it's nicely shot. There's obviously been thought has gone into the framing for the scenes, how it's shot, they want it to come across. Another big plus point for me, and probably my favourite thing about the movie, was the sound design. There's a very ominous tone throughout the movie. Not in all places would I say it's a soundtrack, it's more a sound effect. It's a very ominous, low, rumbling sort of sound that takes place through the movie. Now there are a couple of places where you would expect there to be sound where there isn't. I don't know if that was a conscious choice, where things didn't maybe perhaps completely follow through with that. But overall, the sound design I really enjoyed in the movie. I do feel it was the main thing that was adding tension to the movie. It wasn't in your face in that this soundtrack's going to tell you how you should be feeling at this moment, with very jerky, abrupt, rising in the scale, sort of orchestral. It's not like that at all. It's very subtle, it's very underplayed, it's very ominous, it's very low, it's very background, but you're aware it's there when you're watching. And it did really set a mood for the movie, so sound design, spot on. The other thing I will say, that the acting in this is very good. There isn't a weak actor in that. You don't watch it. Sometimes with lower budget movies you may watch and have a few good actors, but there's a weak link there and it's like, and they come on and it's a bit painful. That's not the case in this movie. Everybody has good acting chops. Everyone does a really good job. I will say, people speak with their normal accents. Now you maybe think that's a very odd thing for me to say. The amount of times I have had American people say to me that they don't understand my accent and I need subtitles, I do feel that some people that aren't used to the Irish accent, because we both have Southern and Northern Irish accents in here, and they're very, I'll not say thick, they're not thick accents, they are, they're very like authentic, believable accents. I find in a lot of Irish movies, the actors either try to like almost let a bit of their accent slide, or they maybe aren't Irish and they're putting on an Irish accent that's very understandable. So I will say that that may be a little bit of an issue for people that either aren't Irish or aren't used to Irish people like me being around them. So that's just something to be aware of. But I did feel the actors did a fantastic job, especially Tim Creed. I thought he was fantastic. I would love to see him. He has got quite a bit of a, filmography, so I will be looking into some of that. I was very impressed with his performance. A lot of the acting in this is, although there is a lot of talking, a lot of the acting in this movie is very much with expression. It's people communicating what's happening or how they're feeling with a facial expression rather than verbally telling you what's happening. So that would be my positives, and that last one kind of brings me on to what didn't work for me about the movie. Now, this could be, obviously I'm telling you how I feel, it may be a completely different experience for you, but for me, I feel that there is a lot of symbolism used in this movie. You're never really told exactly what's going on. Now, I do not need massive exposition. I do not need a really linear story to follow. I do credit myself with being quite, I can work out what's going on in most cases. In this case, a lot of actions are so vague. A lot of the symbolism is so slight. A couple of characters we have that come in for a very short period of time with no explanation. You're left wondering, are they there? Are they symbolic? What do they symbolize? A lot is not explained for you, and it's left very much for maybe down to your own personal interpretation. I'm not sure if that was a purposeful idea. I do feel the individuals' stories in relation to the gateway, I understood what was happening in all but one case within that. I would have liked a little bit more background about some of the other characters' stories so I could tie it to their experience with the gateway. Or main lead Mike, his story is hinted at a little bit more because he suffers from sleep paralysis and he is plagued with visions of something that happened in his past. And that comes up again in his own personal experience. I just felt that the idea for the movie was really solid. It was really interesting. I would say look at that quote at the beginning of the movie, and that should explain to you what's happening, what the movie symbolises, what is occurring. I have read reviews where a lot of people are quite confused as to what's going on or where we leave the movie especially. I do feel the idea was fantastic, but I do feel it needed a little bit more development, a little bit more information, a little bit more backstory about a couple of the, not the central character, absolutely fine, but the other characters. So yeah, it was a bit vague to the point of leaving the viewer a little bit confused about certain aspects. But the main pull away for me for the movie was I just found it really monotonous. I found it quite hard going. It was very talky. A lot of the talking was very fast and quite low. Now, while I'm okay with that, with obviously being from here, I do feel a lot of people not from Ireland will struggle a bit with the accents and how fast people talk. People here do speak exactly like that, so it is very authentic in that. But I know even from personal experience from having lived in England for 10 years, I needed to slow my accent down and pronounce certain words in a different way so that people would understand me. It's ridiculous, but it's true. And I do feel that could be a bit of an issue for some viewers of the movie. But for me, definitely, there's a lot of talking. The first half hour, it's sort of setting up our characters, but I don't feel it sets up our characters enough for us to really care. I didn't feel a real affinity or connection with any of the characters. They were criminals, but you really should be behind someone. You should be feeling for someone, and I wasn't feeling that for any of the characters. I didn't feel we got enough to know any of them, as much as we would have needed to appreciate the journey they were going to go on later. I just feel it was a really good idea, but just needed a bit more development, needed a little bit of a longer runtime, needed a little bit more backstory about our characters, something to make us connect to them, something to make them appear like real people. I just feel what we did get was too little. It just didn't really pull you in. and I do feel it's a slow burn, but it is an excessively slow burn. It's extremely slow. There are little aspects near the end with little elements of horror, but very, very little. I would not categorise this as a horror by any stretch of the imagination. I think crime thriller, possibly, but it is played out more like a drama with a little bit of an ominous undertone. I would recommend it to people that like Irish movies like myself. I do like to check them out, and I'm not saying by any imagination it's a bad movie. I'm just saying I feel it could have been a lot better with a few little changes and a little bit more development. I did find it quite hard going to get through. I did find it very slow and a little bit monotonous, but I did really appreciate the overall idea. The acting, the cinematography and the sound design were all on point. So yeah, that's my review of Gateway. So if I had to rate Gateway out of 10, I think I would come in at a solid 5. What do you think? Does it sound like something you would enjoy? Let us know below in the comments if you have seen it already. I know it has done some of the movie festivals. It will be on Shudder on the 4th of April, so pop on over there and give it a watch. Come back and let us know what you thought. If you want to have a bit of a chat about the storyline and what you feel was happening, obviously put spoiler at the top, leave a couple of lines just so as not to spoil it for anyone else. Were you sort of satisfied with the ending of the movie and where we left it? I'd be really interested to find out. So thank you so much for watching, guys. Over and out. Until next time.